What would you do if you had what some considered to be the perfect life, but behind closed doors, it was not so picture perfect? What if your husband was a pastor and on Sunday he is praising the Lord, but Monday through Saturday he is potentially abusing you? Would you leave it all behind and start a new life? Or would you do what he insinuated this young lady here did, Mica Miller, which is his wife, potentially take yourself off the planet? Well, if you have these same questions, this is the case of Mica Miller. And if you want to know more about this case, please continue watching. Mica Miller was a 30-year-old mother, wife, daughter, friend, and to those who know and loved her, she was very steeped in her faith and very involved in her church. But behind closed doors, a lot of people had no idea of the hell that Micah was described as living day to day with her husband, Pastor John Paul Miller. It is said that Micah had taken several police reports out on her husband, but somehow, when she collected all this evidence right before her death, all of her evidence disappeared. She had documents in her phone and printed documents as well to prove, I guess, what her life was like behind closed doors living with this man. But somehow, just before she mysteriously passed away, her iCloud account was hacked and she no longer had access to her documents that she had gathered, like her evidence and possible other things like photos and everything like that. So basically, since her iCloud account was hacked, she had no way to access her documents and her proof of evidence as to what was going on in her day to day life at the hands of her husband, Pastor John Paul Miller. And on the day that she supposedly took her life, he was seen at a soccer game yelling through a bullhorn, I guess to support his kids as well as the other kids were there. But some people are describing this as he was there being annoying while yelling the kids' names through this bullhorn that he had bought. And just suspiciously, this day is when Micah, the wife, supposedly deleted herself off of the planet, and it is said that it is reported to be a GSW to the head, but people are believing that what she said before she mysteriously passed away is that if something were to happen to her, especially something like what did happen to her, everybody should look at her husband because he is the one who possibly did this to her. And I don't know if he actually committed this crime, but I will say that some of the things that I've heard in these cases like this, where you have a husband who is a pastor or a leader in their community, they will be abusing their wives and things like that behind closed doors. And then they'll go on to tell them something to the effect of, oh, if you tell anybody, I'll do harm to you, and then I'll do harm to myself, or I'll do harm to you and make it look like you are or were the crazy person in the marriage or relationship, and nobody will believe you, and everybody will take my side because I'm the pastor, and they're not going to believe anybody over their pastor. And I know some people that are just that way, especially the older people. Even though something might be going on in the church and there are clear indicators of what might be going on in the church, whether it be the pastor that's doing something or the wife that's doing something or both that are doing something, and the elderly people that have been there for the longest know that it's not right or that's not how church is supposed to be, they won't say anything. They'll, and they'll get offended if someone else calls it out, and they'll say don't talk about their pastor. But I feel this: if you are a pastor or a preacher in the church, then you know that there are certain things that you are not supposed to be doing as a man or even a woman of the cloth, because some things are just not right. Even if you aren't a pastor or a woman in the pulpit, it doesn't matter. Some things are just not right. I always make the joke and say that some were called and some were sent and some just got up and went. And I am a firm believer of this man might potentially be one of those that just got up and went, because he definitely was not, in my opinion, called by God or the Lord or Jesus, whatever some people refer to him as. He was not called by a higher power. He just decided, oh, this is something that I could do to potentially make money. And I know that people are very serious about their religious beliefs. So just like many pastors or preachers or prophets or prophetess or whatever, he took full advantage of that, and he decided, okay, this is a good way to make money, so I'm going to stick with it. And just so happens that he became popular within his congregation and in his community. And it is possible that he could have been abusing his wife and doing horrible things like that I read that were described. Like he would uh, have her to engage in adult activities with other people, as well as join him in those adult activities with other people. And although that was something that I'm pretty sure she did not enjoy doing, she felt like if she could just, like most abusers do, feel like if she could just, or as he's told her, or as most abusers tell their victims, if you could just do what I say or just get what I'm telling you to do right, we wouldn't have these problems if you would just listen to me and do what I say. And depending on how bad the abuse is, there might even be sometimes where he will abuse her and say, I can't believe I did this. And, you just make me so crazy that is the way that I lash out, and I promise I'll never do it again. And she wants to believe him, like most people do, because they want to work on their marriage or their relationship. And, they don't want to feel like they just threw away years of whatever for nothing, or what they consider at the time to be one little mishap or one little misunderstanding, not knowing that one little mishap or misunderstanding is going to be a repeated cycle of events. And then by the time they realize it, it's too late. I don't know if you all remember the woman and the pastor, that something similar to this happened a few years ago, where there was this prominent pastor in this community, and his wife ended up killing him because he was abusing her and also forcing her to engage in adult activities with people. And so he had her doing a lot of awful things. He even had her buying these costumes to dress up in. Like, she showed this one costume where there were clear heels for her to wear. And during these times when she would have to wear these clear heels, that would be a signal for her to know that she was going to be not just watching or whatever her role would be when she was not participating in these adult activities, was that she was going to have to actually participate. And there were a few more costumes and props that she didn't bring into the courtroom. I guess the heels and the wig that she was instructed to wear was just the safest thing that she could bring into the courtroom to show what kind of life that she was living behind closed doors with her husband, because people were thinking that she just wanted to kill her husband, get away with it, and move on with her life. And she also stated a time where her husband would like sodomize her. And I don't know if this is what was happening to Mica Miller as far as the sodomizing, but I do know that she did write, I think, an entry in her diary, or it was part of her evidence, where she made the statement that if she was not participating in the adult activities, she would either have to watch, or I think even set it up or make it comfortable for when the guests arrive to do these adult activities. She would have to set like the room up and things like that and make it comfortable for the person that was coming over. And I just don't understand as to why, if this woman had gotten away from this man, why was he still making her life a living hell, so to speak? Because there was a video that I saw of her saying that, you know, she was ready to get back into worship, and she can't wait to worship with everyone, although I'm pretty sure she knew that she was going to have to find a new church home to worship at, because she was, you know, away from her husband. And during this time, I think that he was building his case to do what he eventually did, which was murder her, because he somehow made her feel like that she was crazy. So she got on medication, I guess, to, either appease him, or hoping that that would help the abuse stop. And he's claiming that her medication was hard to get to her. I don't know what medication she was on, because I couldn't find that anywhere, and what were some of the side effects. But I do know that a lot of mental health meds, like for depression, bipolar, and things of that nature, they make people sometimes feel ill or unwell because their body is not used to whatever it is taking in, or it may be just a certain ingredient in that medication that they're taking that makes them not feel too good when they take it. And I think that, you know, she might have refused to take the medication, and, you know, like I said, since he was building his case for her being crazy or insane, then that helped his case when he either took her off the planet himself or had someone do it. Because I don't know if it's possible or if there are any shortcuts that he would know about in order for him to be at his kid's soccer game and sitting there being annoying, by the way, and then having to or chose to drive to wherever she was, and commit this horrible act. Because I forgot to mention, this man also had trackers on his wife's car. He was tracking her everywhere she went and everything she did. I know that some people are narcissists and think that they can trick people into believing that they are one way and they are actually another way in real life. And people are actually good at that type of thing and they can fool people. But I always tell people I can spend either 5 or 10 minutes with someone, and if they say that they are a pastor, I can tell you if they are really in their word or if they are just using that to make people look at them a certain way and treat them a certain way. But in real life, they are monsters behind closed doors. And I can also spend 5 or 10 minutes with someone and tell you if they are a little, mentally unwell or if they are actually just being misunderstood. Now, I know some people like this who, because I've came in contact with these people over the years that claim to be pastors or preachers or what have you, and they are anything but. I know of a story of a young man who came out a few years ago. Well, it's been over 10 years now. But his pastor told him that he would rather for him to sleep with a woman that is, a streetwalker, rather than be gay. And he even went so far as to offer to pay for the service of any woman of this young man's choosing for him to sleep with so that he could get rid of the gay or the devil inside of him. And when that young man refused, he proceeded to kicked this man off of his position as the head drummer at the church. And this boy had been playing drums at this church ever since I had known him. And at the time that he came out, we were in our early 20s. No, we were in our late teens, early 20s. And after that, it seemed like, you know, everybody in the church started treating him differently, started speaking ill about him. And that's one thing that I mean when people are good at getting people to see them one way, but in actuality, they are a whole nother way in real life. And I think that that is part of being an evil person and knowing that you are evil and you know that you have to hide your wicked ways from the people who you are supposed to be leading into the gates of heaven. But in actuality, by them listening to you, some of them could be leading themselves into the pits of hell, to be honest. And I think that that is a bad thing. Like, I'm not sure if the lady was just a long standing member of the church or if she was, someone who attended occasionally. But I saw a video of this older lady while Micah's family was standing outside chanting justice for Micah and things of that nature. She went into the middle of this crowd and was saying, y'all need to leave, and it's not justice for Micah, it's justice for Jesus. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she is really like brainwashed. I wonder how many of his followers are actually brainwashed by them thinking that this man actually lost the love of his life or his wife, because he even was so cold about the way that he announced her death. He told them, he was like, okay, I need everybody to stand. And I'm going to make an announcement, and please refrain from talking about it inside of the church. You can talk about it outside or amongst yourselves wherever you choose to, but please do not speak about it inside the church. And he went on to say that he still needs people to make sure that they're still coming to church, because he doesn't want to have to worry about things like that while he's on his vacation, because his vacation could be a few days or it could be a few weeks. Now, me, with the kind of person that I am and the things that I've been seeing, I thought that after he made this statement, he was going to actually try to take off to like Mexico or something like that and just, start over. But I don't think he's done that, because I think he is so conceited and wrapped up in what he did, and that people are going to look at him a certain way and say, oh, well, he didn't do this. He's the pastor of our church. He couldn't have possibly done this. And I think that that is a mistake that a lot of people make when they are involved in cases like this, where their pastor is involved and they are listening to this person on a regular basis. They become brainwashed. And I don't think there's anything wrong with learning from people, because I have a few people that I listen to and learn things from on a daily basis, and one in particular. And I absolutely love the conversations that I have with this person, because they give me a new insight or a different way on looking at something that I thought I already knew. And this person is really, they have a beautiful spirit and presence about them, and they don't have any malicious intent. And I just love when I can talk to someone and just have a good conversation and learn things from, and bounce ideas off of them. And I like when they bounce ideas off of me, and we can go back and forth and have a good conversation, and there's nothing malicious about it. Like, if I tell them something, I don't, I know I'm not going to hear it in 18 different places in 2 weeks. And I hope they know that with me as well. So I really enjoy learning from this person. And I also have another person that I love learning from. And I know that I irritate this person on a regular basis, but I think they have gotten kind of used to me asking or saying weird or quirky things. And I know that sometimes they find things that I might say a little hilarious, even though I don't mean them to be that way all the time. And I feel like that Pastor John Paul probably has friends that he talks to and tells them things, and they probably don't see anything wrong with the fact that they could have potentially seen bruises either on him or his wife, because who knows, the abuse might have been going both ways, and she just couldn't hold up her side of what was going on, and she didn't want to have to face the music when the truth finally came out. And she probably also felt like, no one's going to take my side. But I really do think that she had proof, as far as whether it be pictures, recordings of him abusing her, or any other type of documentations like police reports, restraining orders, temporary protective orders, things like that, where she could prove her innocence in this, and prove that she was not crazy or needed to be somewhere where they house the criminally insane or the crazy people and things like that. Because why else would this man go so far as to hack her iCloud account and her other accounts to where she no longer has access to them? And why would he even go so far as to put a tracking device on her car and her phone and other things that she might have had so that he could see everything that she was doing? Because, like I said, he knew everywhere she went, everybody she talked to, things that she might have searched on the internet, things of that nature. And I don't understand why someone would go that far to do all those things when they are not doing something that they know that they will eventually have to or already are in the process of hiding. Now, I honestly feel like, what she said about if she ends up the way they found her is that he did it because, I know that many people might not have to deal with things like this, but I can tell you from personal experience, I've had people where I've had conversations with these people, and my conversations with these people, and when I say people, I'm talking about pastors and preachers specifically. I've had situations where I've had conversations with these people, and the next Sunday, our conversation, word for word, was the sermon for that Sunday. And everybody in the church knew who this person was talking about because I was the only one who was asking questions after the sermon. I've even lost friends over being brainwashed in the church, and I think I've mentioned this before. But just in case I haven't, I had a friend who I met in high school. I knew his sister first, and then she introduced me to him. Because she thought that we would be really good friends, and all three of us were really good friends, or at least with him. So I thought we were, because we used to be really close in high school, and we would talk on the phone and things of that nature. But he would also use me for job referrals and things like that. So, I'm thinking, okay, I've known you for 10 plus years now. So, we obviously are good friends. And let's not forget, this person was struggling with issues of self-harm because they tried to take themselves off of the planet when they were younger, but thankfully they were saved in time, so it didn't work. And then after that, they had gotten this really great paying job at this place. I'm not gonna say where it is because I don't know who listens to my content or what, and I don't want anybody to, think that this is about them. But they gotten this job at this really great place, and then they got a job at another great place, and they had both of these jobs, and they lost one of the jobs, but they were kind of forewarned by someone else before they lost the job that they should be careful because things are not what they appear to be with the person who's running the program, so to speak. And so he ended up losing that job, and then shortly after, he lost the other job. But thankfully, he was the kind of person who was able to pick up a job really quickly. But for some reason, that losing that particular job affected this person. And I have a theory on as to why that happened, but that's another story for another day. But I lost this friend because he went to this church, and one Sunday, well, before this, I'm gonna back up. He had started talking to the people he actually asked me one time, would you like to go to Bible study with me on a Wednesday? And since he was always at my house, I said, sure, no problem. I'll go just to see what it was like, if it was different from anything that I had experienced before. Little did I know that this first night was going to prove to be a little bit foreshadowing, if you will, of things to come. Because I went to the person's house where they were having Bible study at, and it was the pastor and his wife's home. And that Sunday, that following Sunday, of that same week, he asked me, he was like, would you like to go to church with me? Just to see what it's like since you've come to Bible study. So I was like, sure, no problem. I'll go this one time. And if I don't like it, I don't have to go back. That was always, my thing. If I don't like it, I'm not gonna go back to that church. Um and at the time they were holding church in not a regular church building, but they were renting out a room in this specific place, and they were holding church in there. Now, the first thing that I noticed when they were during this church service is that they were taking communion every Sunday. And, things like that. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised that you take communion every certain Sunday of the month. I can't remember if it's the second Sunday or the third Sunday. I don't remember, but I know that it's a certain day of the month that you take communion. But they were doing it every Sunday. So I was like, okay, whatever. If I don't like it, I don't have to go back. I went to, I think, like 5 church services. And one particular Sunday, he preached on how to let friends go. And sometimes your friendships should not be friendships. You should meet these people. They should do whatever they're supposed to do. And then you're supposed to basically toss them away. So I had a question after the sermon, but his answer to my question was, you should talk to my wife. But like I said, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised that if you are the pastor and your congregation or your flock has a question, whether they're new members or old members, you should answer their questions. But little did I know, a few days later, he came back and I think let it slip that the people of the church, the older people, did not really care for me too tough because they felt like I wasn't saved because I wasn't baptized by their pastor, which is, the guy, the pastor that I'm speaking on at this particular church that I went to. They felt like I wasn't saved because I wasn't baptized by their pastor. So they felt like, there was no need for my friend at the time to be friends with me. And, little did I know, he was saying some things about a situation that I was dealing with, but I'm not going to get into that. So when I say that, Pastor John Paul Miller probably is one way in public and then another way behind closed doors, that's what I mean as an example, and by people being brainwashed by him, because things like that do happen. And I just think that it's really sad that things like that do happen. But I'm hoping that the police and authorities will look into Pastor John Paul, because if I'm not mistaken, he has another wife or 2 more wives, or I could be getting his case confused with someone else, but I think he has 2 other, ex-wives. If that is so, I would like to know what were their relationships like with him, because I haven't heard anything about or read anything or seen anything about any of them speaking out so far. But if he has or had other ex-wives, I would like to know what their experience was with him, and if he, did them this way, or if he threatened them in any way. Like, what was it like for them, and are they willing to, say that Mica was potentially not crazy, because like I said, they could have been abusing each other and, nobody knew, and she just made it seem like it was all him doing it to her. And it really was both ways, because I know of relationships that work that way as well. They'll think that the man is being abusive and it's both of them abusing each other. So I hope the family can get justice for Mica. And, if he did something to her, I hope he pays for his crimes. And I don't mean just by praying and repenting to God and hoping that it'll go away. I hope that he is punished to the fullest extent of the law if he actually did take her off this planet himself or hired someone to do it. But either way, I hope the family gets justice, And I hope that they, are able to lay her to rest properly, because strangely enough, this man wanted her body cremated immediately after, she was found. And I think the family put a stop to it, or the police actually, in, conjunction with the family, put a stop to it. But either way, I'm glad he was not able to cremate her immediately after, because I think that if, or when that happens, basically, if there's any evidence, like tissue evidence, like scrapings under fingernails, or, abrasions to the face or body, or broken ribs, or old bruises on top of new bruises, or anything like that, or, once you cremate a person, all that's gone, because all you have left are a few bones, teeth, and basically ashes, so you don't have any tissue samples to refer back to, or any DNA swabs or blood samples to refer back to. And so basically, if you had any evidence, once the person has been cremated, you have basically lost the evidence that you have. And I hope, if there is any way that they could get into her iCloud account and find anything else that might be like a clue to her death, or if he did anything to her, I hope they can find that. And I hope that if they do go to trial, they can use everything that they have found on this man, because I just don't think that, someone goes off the deep end one time and decides to make their wife look like, she's crazy, and then you find her gone off the planet the next day, or however long they were apart, because rumor has it she was couch surfing with friends and family and people that she knew, just to get away from this man. Now that tells you how perfect her life wasn't, and that he possibly was not the easiest individual to live with, because believe me, there are men out there like that. And you would think that these people are so strong-willed and so that, how are they being abused? But if a person is very charismatic and good at what they do, they're obviously good at brainwashing, and that's one thing to remember. But unfortunately, guys, that brings me to the end of today's video. If you liked today's video, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. Please don't forget to leave me a comment down in the comment section below. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, please make sure that before you leave, you do subscribe, because it helps me out with videos just like this. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.